So today we are going to start our panel discussion about hiring. And guys, our audience, please feel free to interact, to ask us questions, to provide your feedback or answers, or tell us if something is not clear. So I'm going to start with a question to my fellow partners in crime here. And say, okay, so we know now a bit more about sustainability and human sustainability, but I would start with the one question with me and my diversity hat. So how do we ensure that we recruit more inclusively? Anyone wants to start on that one?
Yeah, it has to start with intention. Everything for me starts with intention. I think that if you want to change something, you have to have the true intention to really want to do that. I think a lot of companies play the game and they pretend to make it look like they're all about being inclusive and diverse, but it's more about smoke and mirrors. It's more about how I position myself. So it's to a point that it doesn't hurt me detrimentally my image. They're not coming from a standpoint, how do I use inclusion and diversity in a way that optimizes my company performance? I think that in order for companies to become better at it, they have to start looking at it. It's not something that you do to be compliant. It's something that you do that actually makes you better. It's something that improves your talent. It's something that improves your approach to your customer, improves your ability to do anything. So for me, I would say it has to come back to the intention.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got to think in terms of what is inclusion and diversity. There is a lot more to it. I know currently that gender is a kind of the hot topic of inclusion diversity, but inclusion diversity is much bigger than that, and it now has to include age. We are quite often excluding both ends of the range, the young people and the older people. And then, as far as inclusion, thinking in terms of more about people, personalities, and things like that. That's all part of the diverse nature of people. And rather than even looking at any of what someone is as a, uh, for example, rather than look at male, female, look at qualified, look at what they bring to the table. And those pieces, and if we change our focus away from this or that, but look for what qualifies people to be a part of our team, part of our organization, makes a difference. And I think the other shift that I've recently, I've known about this for a long time, but I've not really thought about really pushing it forward. And that is that, remember, an organization, rather than being this structure, it is actually, and should be anyway, treated more like a body than a machine. And think in terms of the diverse makeup of every body. We have toes and fingers and eyes and noses, and so when you think in those terms, there's place for all kind of people.
You mean if we had 10 thumbs, it wouldn't work?
And what would happen in our culture if the thumbs were popular, everybody would want to be thumbs, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy, and I love what you both said, and I fully agree. To me, obviously, to hire or to recruit more inclusively, I think it starts with what you said, Anton, intention, but also actions. I think to be a diverse and inclusive place, it needs to be part of your culture, and it works at all levels. It starts with the leaders at the top who have a strong message and who communicate that on a regular basis, but also ensuring that it cascades everywhere as well, from the recruitment department to the operations staff, to the people in the back office, etc., etc. And recruiting, as you rightly said, Kevin, it's not about looking at the age of people, the gender, etc. It's really looking at the potential, at the qualifiers. Why do we need, what type of person do we need, and not, okay, we need a man or a woman, we need a millennial or we need a baby boomer for this and that. We should never assume. We really should look at, okay, what are the things we are looking for and who has the potential to do that. It doesn't really matter about the experience, because yes, maybe people who have lots of experience may do the great job, but also someone who is just fresh out of college or university may have all these fresh insights, will ask all questions that people have never asked before. So I think that's why it's very important to have that ingrained in every part of the organization as a culture, and that everybody follows that same mindset. So Kevin,
Just real quick, V, I just love how you guys both mentioned that. I'm going to drive this point home. It's not about having, 25% population be African-American, 25% being Hispanic, 25 being Asian, 25 being, white. That you're going to try to do that. You're going to have a horrible organization. Mm-hmm. It's about ensuring that we have a diverse perspective, ensuring we have diverse representation. It's not about equal numbers, because the reality is, if you start to look for the right attributes, you should be fairly mixed naturally. Like it's more importantly, if you don't disqualify people because of their race, ethnicity, gender, that you should end up with a diverse staff naturally if you hire based on proper attributes. I think that a lot of companies right now are going, I see this with schools. I'm seeing schools going, okay, we need to have more, diverse population. So irrelevant of scores, irrelevant of anything, they're taking students that are not as qualified. I'm like, that's not the answer. I'm like, if you're seeing that, we need to invest into students in the less qualified communities early on, get them more qualified so they can come to the school and earn that position. I think that what companies can't do is give away positions simply because somebody meets a demographic criteria they want to appease.
Yeah, no, great point, Anton. It's, as you said, it's not about ticking the box, but it's really making sure that all things fit together. We have a new participant, Javier. Welcome on board. We are in a panel discussion, so feel free to intervene if you have any questions or comments to make. We are more happy to have your feedback whenever you want.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you. So my next question, and I would like to go back to Kevin's point, as we said, how to recruit more inclusively. So let's talk now about our younger people, younger generations. What can we do as organizations to be more inclusive, to be more humanly sustainable, and make sure we recruit young people? What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Well, it's a real important piece, something that I'm just super passionate about, having been a teacher and worked with young people. And what a lot of our organizations, companies don't understand is that the focus has been approaching young people at the university level. And that's fine. But by the time you get there, especially current environment, you're too late. You've lost the opportunity, that potential. What we discovered and demonstrated very well is that you've got to start in high school, and in some ways even look down into middle schools to begin to be a part of influencing what's going on in education, because we like to think that that education's pointing everyone to all the opportunities, and that's not happening. So what organizations, companies need to do is go in and partner with these education entities, a local school, a PTA or PTO. PTA, I guess, is showing my age here. PTO, any of those, and partner. And I will be talking today about some of those partnering potentials, but don't think that you're going to have young people coming out beating the bushes looking for your organization. You need to make yourself visible, and you need to share what your organization's about and what it looks like to be ready for your organization, because a lot of young people aren't even being given the benefit of understanding. For example, if most organizations, if you ask, say they need soft skills, and they are making efforts in the system to teach soft skills, but better if a organization company comes in and works with young people on soft skills. So don't think that the starting point for bringing young people in starts at the university level. If you do, you're probably going to lose that potential. Current information is about 10 years. What will happen is that they will come out of high school and they will wander around for about 10 years and then begin to consider a broader option, different possibilities. So,
yeah, so I would add, Kevin, that's a great point, especially nowadays. I think if I look at what's happening in the educational system here in Europe, and that's maybe the same as well in the US or wherever you are in the world, is that I don't think schools or colleges or universities are really teaching students what do they need to be hired, how to prepare for their CVs, for an interview discussion, to negotiate their salaries, to have the right skills, as you said, soft skills. What does that really mean? And I think that is so great when companies can help them, guide them, and say, hey, we're there, and these are the type of people we're looking for, and these are the skills we would like to have, and this is what it means, etc. And another point as well, especially now with internet, and again, having my hat as a diversity and inclusion officer, I think it's also important that schools or companies do not only look at their local area, but they have a broader scope. Maybe someone who is located on the other side of the country, or maybe in another country, may be a great candidate for what you're looking for. So it's really keeping an open mind and really giving the opportunity to as many people as possible, and as guiding them as early as possible. Anton, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would be the same. The answer high level would be the same for regardless of what generation we're talking about it. Understand them, understand what they want, understand their desires, wants, and needs, and then figure out how to position yourself as a premier employer that addresses those needs, right? So what is it that young people care about? You better make sure that if you want to attract young people, you have flexibility in schedules. That is a huge thing that a baby boomer may be less likely to complain about because they've been conditioned to be very rigid with schedules. But where a millennial is going to say, hey, I need to be able to pick up my kid at this time. I need to be able to come in late on this day and be able to just be judged by my work performance instead of the amount of clock I punch in, right? That's one of the other things they care about. Another one is purpose, right? Is your company positioned as a company is doing something good for the world, is doing something good for the community, environment, whatever it may be. Younger generations are very much wanting purpose. I'm not saying the older generations don't. It's just the young generation really wants to feel like they're part of something greater. It's just the way they were brought up. And if you want to attract those people, how are you positioning yourself in those areas? So really, that's the high level answer, relevant to what it is. Understand what they want, and then put that in practice. And human sustainability, it may not be the word that the young generation is talking about, maybe not the way they're saying it, but the concepts you're going to see throughout this summit are going to show you exactly why human sustainability needs to be a focus for you in order to bring young generation on board.
Yeah,
I'll even throw out a practical way. We like to be practical. If companies, organizations want to engage with young people, a lot of times schools will do mock interviews for their students in various classes. I've seen it done in English classes. I've seen it done in business classes, career and technical classes. So if you want to be engaged, go and help with some mock interviews with your local school.
Yeah.
And even think in terms of middle school, because the perspectives have already begun to develop at that age. And by the time you get into high school, in fact, if you go down to high school and look at just seniors, you're still lost the window. So.
Yeah.
Jeremy brought a good, oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Jeremy is bringing up two great points. The first one saying that that's why it's important that leadership and mentoring at a young age is so important. Yes, the sooner we start by helping our younger people, by guiding them and mentoring them, the better they will be equipped to start in companies and thrive in their jobs. And also, you're right, Jeremy, businesses can arrange job fairs or kind of the same similar types of events to benefit the sustainability in the long term. Exactly. When I think of job fairs are very useful for people, and especially, again, whoever is looking for a job, and especially students when they don't really know the job market, that they go there and ask questions and see what type of companies are there, would I like to work for them? Some things we'll touch upon in the next coming days. It's about the values. When you are young, you probably don't think about, okay, what are my values? What is important for me? But when you start really looking at companies with this type of point of view, you can really say, okay, will I be able to do what I want? Like to your point, Anton, saying that flexibility is now key. If they see that a company wants them to be from 9 to 5 every day at their desk, etc., although now with the current situation, it may be a bit challenging. But if a company is very strict and narrow-minded in their way of thinking, then a younger person can ask themselves the questions and say, hey, is that really the type of company I want to work for? So these are the really great events and great opportunities indeed for young people to get a bit more, to get to know more about the job market and the companies themselves. Great.
And Jeremy's comment on sustainability, I just want to drive that home, right? You in the next 5 years, you're going to have 20 jobs, but you only have 10 candidates right now. It's not a sustainable plan. So you have to go and like Kevin's talking about, get those candidates early on and get them interested in something that you can kind of slowly hook them and reel them in over time. Because currently, like in the blue collar world, there's a massive shortage. And if these companies, some of these big giants out there that make a lot of money in there are not going, hey, we need to do something to shift, people from wanting to only do white collar work. That's why some of these blue collar workers are making astronomical money right now, because there's just such shortage of young people wanting to go into that world.
Well, those areas actually have been dubbed at times gold collar, because they combine the most number of jobs, and now with pay that is really, really good. And I can even show you some stats that indicate better than what a college grad's going to be looking at.
Way better. It's in many cases way better. My buddy's a plumber, and this guy's making way more than I ever will with an MBA. Like it's crazy.
Well, and Jeremy's point about career fairs, I need to throw out and bring to bear your comment, Anton. If you're going to do a career fair, it is really good, but don't do the traditional career fair with a 10 by 10, a table, and brochures. Okay, I had the good fortune for a number of years to be part of what was here in the state of Georgia called a career expo. And what we did is we featured all kinds of different careers. But what happened is young people would come to an exhibit floor and see that career in action. They would actually be doing things that they would do as part of those careers. And young people didn't just get a brochure, they got an experience. And that is just so much more effective. And by the time I had finished, we were dealing with 7,000 people over 2 days. And last I knew it was over 8,000 before the pandemic. And these are just about all young people that are coming in trying to experience what is a career about, and what is it, can I see it, touch it, smell it, experience.
And on top of the experience, I would also reiterate the things that are important to them, right? So instead of just talking about, say I'm a plumber and I want people to do more plumbing work, I would show them how they're helping people in time of need, right? I would reiterate an emergency where there is a water leak or there is something going on, you're there to rescue them. You're attaching purpose, right? I would also talk to them about how low of barrier of entry plumbing can have for an entrepreneur, right? I can talk, you go get experience, you learn the ropes, and then you can start your own business and have the freedom that you want. So now I just addressed those two really important things for millennials and Gen Zers, right? Is that autonomy and being free to run your own business. They want that.
I got to tell a funny. You mentioned plumbers and things. Doctor had a plumbing problem one time and called in a plumber, and he needed, the doctor needed something taken care of quickly. Plumber came in, and being a skilled guy and everything, 10 minutes, he took care of the problem, got the doctor out of his emergency, and handed him a bill. The bill was for $250. The doctor was incredulous. He was just, how can that be? That's more than I charged when as a doctor. And the plumber said, yeah, that was more than I charged when I was a doctor too.
Brilliant. Yeah, very true.
Point is, there's more to careers than what people find in general.
Sure.
That's true. That's true. So let's move on. We have talked about recruiting in general. And now what I would like to know, especially nowadays in this digital world, what do you think, what is proactive recruitment? So what does it look like to be proactively recruiting? What do you guys think? And Kimberly, Jeremy, Shatat, please feel free to unmute yourself, and if you have to say something or if you want to comment on this.
To me, I always start with the root. And to me, the biggest thing that I pull away is understanding your need. Before you can be proactive about solving a need, you need to understand your current need and your future need, right? So how often are you sitting down as a leader and looking at what are we doing this year? What are we doing in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, right? And if you're planning on expanding and scaling, well, I need to have the frontliners, but I also need to build out my leadership staff in order to keep the culture and do all that kind of stuff. So I think that in order to be proactive, you first need to get the point. You need to know your flight risks. You need to understand the nature of your turnover, right? Are you in the high turnover industry that, 40% of your staff is turning over and you need to be constantly refilling the pipeline? Or are you in a low turnover industry, maybe only 10% turnover, right? But I always talk about flight risks in one-on-ones. I don't necessarily talk to them about being a flight risk, but I try to assess in all one-on-one conversations about how long I have left with this person, right? Is this something that is going to be there, somebody going to be there for 6 more months? Or is this somebody that looks like they have a upward career trajectory with our company and they're going to be here for years? But as soon as I get a flight risk, guess what? I'm working on that. As soon as I know that there is going to be an expansion, as soon as I know there's going to be more roles, I'm working on that pipeline. So I would say start there.
Yeah, brilliant. Kevin?
Get away from the check boxes.
Yes.
Stop looking, as you're planning. Okay, the natural inclination currently is as I'm planning, okay, I'm going to need a person with this set of skills, with this specific education, and that's my first priority. And if that's the approach you take, you're going to be repeating the same problems that we've already created. And so as you look and plan, think in a humanly sustainable way. Think about a total person, not just what they can show on the resume.
Yeah.
You got to have a mind shift in that.
Yeah, that's true. I would add in the current world, the digital presence is very important. And I would say as well, companies should make use more of their employees, in the sense that what I mean is that employees should also promote their employers. And I know some companies, they do not want their employees to be on social media or to post things about their companies. But when you are liking what you do, like your manager, really like your job, you would be the best advocate to tell your friends, the people you know around, hey, come and work for this company. This is great. You've got this, you've got that. And I think that would show again that a company is humanly sustainable, and that they not only have their recruitment team looking for additional candidates, but that they would self-promote thanks to their current employees.
They become evangelists, the word that Anton mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And a word of warning to my peer group, okay? This idea that you don't like or not comfortable with digital processes and the technological world, I'm going to put it in terms that my generation gets. Get over it. If you don't, you're in trouble.
Kimberly's got a really good comment here. She said, I look at people's potential and grow them into their potential.
Yeah.
Frustrates many other leaders who think that you have to be at X years or level. Show people you believe in them and empower them with an opportunity to grow. And that one to me is so huge. You guys are going to, in day 3, hear me talk about skill alignment and kind of how we should develop people. The word potential is a big piece of that, because you have 2 candidates sitting in front of you right now. And what current organizations are doing, they're going, this person has 1 more year experience. They look like they're a little bit better at this task. We're going to hire this person. But they're not seeing that this person has had a tremendous trajectory throughout their life, did well at school, crushed everything they've done. They're just new to this position, new to this industry, but their ceiling, right? What is their ceiling? Maybe this person's already peaked. The person that was there, more experience, is a little bit more current skill set, but that's their peak. That's as high as they're going to get. While this person is sitting there, yeah, they may need 6 months of development, but they're going to break past that ceiling within that 6 months of proper development. So I love that you mentioned that, Kimberly, because that's so huge. We're looking at snapshots. We're not looking at this big picture of a human being.
Yeah, and to add to that, the people, when you give people the opportunity, they will also be more motivated, and they will probably go even above and beyond what you ask them. While if someone has already been X number of years at a certain level, then yes, he or she may do a great job, but will he or she be as motivated and excited and wanted to go above and beyond? That's also another question. So great point, Kimberly.
Yeah, and right now, the idea of potential and the fact that we don't hire quite often based on potential. And I'm going to kind of toot our horn here that we can come in and help you begin to develop a plan based in a humanly sustainable fashion, rather than just a set of metrics that are not human in their view. Because by developing your plan based on and including potential, you get beyond just plug somebody in that fits at that snapshot that Anton talked about.
Potential is a big picture, right? Potential is not a metric. You can't quantify potential. So you have to kind of get a full sense of a person. And that's why I think that it's not a more widely used practice of trying to measure potential in recruiting, because your executives want a empirical, answer. They want you to give them a data point that says X about this person, and they can compare it to X of the other person, and it's very simple and easy. But because we're trying to take the simple and easy approach, we're missing out on what V said, those extra components that you can't teach. I can teach you to be better at tasks. I can teach you to be better at customer service, answer phone calls better. I can't teach you to care more. I can't teach you to take initiative. Those things are just kind of within us, or they're not. But if we're not assessing potential over recruiting, we're missing on those important pieces.
Jeremy,
yeah, go ahead, V.
Sorry, Jeremy is making another great point and saying it's like chess. Don't think about the short-term goal, but look at the future goals of the business and create a sustainable funnel. So not only can the business grow, but also allows the attraction of the business, catch the people who your business is trying to attract. Excellent remark, Jeremy. Yes, exactly. It's all about the long-term vision. So let's move on now a bit in our hiring recruitment process. And the question I would like to ask now is, how do you evaluate a resume beyond the checkbox? Because as we know, many companies are sometimes or often hiring people and filling in the job because they just have to find someone, and yes, check, the box is ticked, I have found someone and now he or she can do the job, even if that's not the right candidate. So how do we ensure that a CV or resume is evaluated the right way and not just as a checkbox? Any thoughts, guys?
I'm going to throw rocks for a minute. ATS. prefer people not use them. Just I have not found that they, other than expediting and efficiency, I get that. That's why they're in use. But otherwise, they're inhumane and they depend solely, literally, on checkboxes. And so be real careful. If you've got to use it, if you choose to use it, make sure you consider parameters other than the traditional items that we're talking about, the education, the experience, the whatever. Get people to let you know more about their potential, to use the word we've been using already. Show that potential on their resume. That involves things such as community service and volunteer activity. Those kinds of things really give you a better indicator of who someone is and what their potential is than what degree they hold or
Yeah.
what job they had in the past.
That's such a good
And
point, Kev. Go ahead, V.
sorry, no, I was about to say, and I want to go back to what we said earlier on, especially with the younger generations, the ones who are still at schools, college, or universities. They probably don't have much experience to show on their CVs or resume, and so by showing them, okay, are they the captain of their football club, or are they volunteering in certain association? You kind of start seeing the potential. You could start seeing the type of person these students are, and that's what I said. And if I look at myself, when I started, I looked for my first job. I had no idea how to write a CV. I had no idea how to present myself, and that is so critical that the younger generations are being guided and mentored and coached and helped, so that again they know that, okay, they don't have so much experience, but there's so many other things they can offer. They have the potential to do certain things if they are given the chance to show it. So that's what I want to say. Anton, what did you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much just looking at the resume, kind of the whole complete picture. It's, you got to assess on the resume. I can make myself look great. I mean, it's very easy to lie. It's very easy to put whatever I want. Look at how people talk about it, right? Like in interviews, I try to, and I don't know if necessarily I'm getting ahead of myself or ahead of the conversation by saying interview in this piece, but I think that we need to have at least a conversation. I think that sometimes interviews are not possible, so maybe you do a phone conversation, right? If it's hard to set up a full-on interview or you don't have the time for it, do a 10-minute phone interview. Just I've always done that. I would do a 3-interview process. It would be a phone interview screening that either myself or my assistant manager would do. Then I would do an in-person interview, and then my general manager would do the next one. Then all 3 of us or 2 of us come together, talk about those things. And what we're focused on is what's not on the resume, right? What kind of feel did you get from the conversation? How did they answer these specific questions? Look at how is the candidate answering generally, or is the candidate answering specifically? Because I want them to answer, when this happened, this is what I did, and this was the outcome. Those 3 components show you true experience. Because if it's not like that, what it's normally going to come out as and say, normally when this happens, this is what I do. No, that just means that's what you want to do or you want to say in that moment to sound good. So it needs to be specific. Assess it for specific things and then look for actual conversations. The other piece is like, it's just to Kevin's point. I think it's interesting how as people get older and they get more experience, their resume just becomes full of what they did on their job, and those things that are so important, like community service and their hobbies and interests, start to fall to the side. But I want that. Like, so I would encourage companies to, even if they don't have that on the resume, to ask those follow-up questions, right? Maybe it's a pre-interview analysis of some sort, and you're sending them some questions to answer. Do that and see what they come up with, see what they answer with. And then also beyond the resume, obviously, we have personality assessments, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we utilize as a company, something that's we believe is important, is to sit down and assess personality. Because sometimes on the resume, this person's great, but from cultural fit, it's like a thorn in my backside if I put them in there, right? So it's not necessarily going to work. And we need to assess them from, social standpoint. How are they going to interact and fit in with this team? Who are they as a person, right? If they're already a driver, and that's kind of who they are by nature, somebody like myself, putting him on a team that has a bunch of drivers already is not going to be a good thing. Like, that's just going to create a lot of conflict and issues there. So looking beyond the resume, look at the personality in any way, whether it be in person or in some sort of assessment.
Yeah, so we have
Good
two great
recruiting
comments.
real quick, good recruiting tool, very practical. Organizations, companies that want to be humanly sustainable, start with high school interns.
Yes.
Figure out way to have high school interns, even if it's 1 week, 2 weeks. Have high school interns, get them in. It is a way to find out more than what's on their resume.
True, true. And I think that this ties into what Kimberly said, asking people what benefits have you brought to companies you worked for, what have you done? And especially, again, I'm thinking about these younger generations who do not have much work experience. You could also, or companies could also ask them, well, what do you do in your private life? Maybe they are the oldest person in their families. They have 4 or 5 brothers and sisters, and they are also helping the family. So what have you done? How have you stepped up? When did you take initiative? So that also helps showing the potential of people, especially again when they don't have many years of experience. And Shatat is also making a great point. I saw company pay more attention and care to other people rather than their own staff. I think companies should hear more what company employees want to say. That is so true, Shata. Thank you for bringing that up as well. Often companies look straight outside to see, okay, how can they get, let's say, new people in their organization? But as you say, they also have people internally who have been doing a great job and who want the next challenge, who want to be given the opportunity to grow. And that's the role of the leaders and the managers to develop their team members, to have these conversations on a regular basis. And I know we are going to talk about that, especially tomorrow and Thursday. But this is key, that really leaders talk to their people, make sure that they all have a career plan and that they think about the succession. Maybe also the manager or the leader wants to grow and therefore they need a replacement for them. So who is the potential? Who is the next person who can replace him or her? And therefore, who can replace the person who is going to replace him or her? So yes, people and companies definitely should look at their internal employees, and also it may not be in their own team. Maybe there is someone in another team as well that needs another challenge and that would be a great fit for this team. So managers and leaders, they also need to ensure that they talk to their peers as well, not only within their own team or organization, but maybe other departments as well, because there are lots of potentials, not only outside, but also internally. So great point.
Just real quickly,
Shatat.
Shatat's point made me think of something. I haven't mentioned this. Kevin will tell you often there's no formula for leadership. I will argue with this formula. I will say that there is actually one formula that will work, and your comment made me think about it. It's creating sustainability is a triple win. If you want to have a humanly sustainable environment, you're going to create a triple win. But here's the formula. It's the order in which the win comes. You have to put team member first, customer second, your company comes last. Change that order, it'll never work. You will never create a triple win unless it's that order. So your people, when they're happy, they will take care of the customer. When the customer is happy, your company will be taken care of. The minute you start to change that up, like many companies do, because I took your point, Shatat, as sometimes people put customers over their employees, right? There's a lot of people who go, customer is always right. I didn't operate that way. I took my team's side whenever, was the right thing to do. And if I had to lose a customer to have my team members back, I will do that. And I've done that. I've had to 86 clients. I've had to do things where they were no longer clients because I needed to show my team that they were first, no matter what revenue was lost, no matter what. I needed to feel safe. I needed to feel cared for. I needed to feel like their future was secure. And if customers were jeopardizing that, those were no longer our customers. But there's not a lot of companies who are willing to go that route, but we have to. And then if we do it, that company will always win much greater than if we put themselves first.
Absolutely,
Solid
yeah.
principle, Anton. I understand there's a fine line between a formula and a principle.
No, no, I know. I was being facetious. There's really there's not a formula, but I'm saying that's just the only thing I would say is for
Yeah.
certain in leadership that if you don't put your people first, you put other people first, or you put your company first, it is not a sustainable formula, not a sustainable thing, and we'll have issues.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I've seen it myself. I've also managed teams for more than 20 years and teams with people from all over the world. And every time I have taken care of my people as the best way I could by listening to them, being them to support them, asking for their feedback, etc. And they have given that back to me above and beyond what I asked them, and therefore to the customers, because every time it was about improving customer satisfaction, helping the customers in different ways, etc. And so that's, I am fully on board with what you said, Anton. If you treat your people well, if you care about them, they will take care of your customers, and there's no doubt about that. So I also don't understand why some companies want to take shortcuts and don't do that more often. So we talked about interviews, and obviously nowadays, especially we've seen this year, the situation has changed a bit for many of us. How do you think people should conduct interviews virtually in a sustainable way?
You know, I'll jump on this one. Come from a place of understanding more than before. I need leaders can in this time miss out on some amazing candidates because they're judging them by the way they're nervous, by the way they are on camera. Many of these jobs, they're not trained to be on camera. They're not like us who live on Zoom and who do this stuff all the time. So come from a place of understanding that these people are way more on edge than they probably even would be in a traditional environment. And that's just initiates the conversation on a good note. From there, also do work yourself to put them at ease, to get them to open up. Right? Understand that this is where you're starting. You're starting in a place where they're really more uncomfortable than they were before. And you also don't have the normal tactics that you may have, like body language, having that warm body language, because there's only like half my body. They can't see my arms sometimes and stuff like that. So put in things like icebreakers to start the conversation on a lighter note. Put in check-in times with yourself mentally and them to see how are they doing. Are they seeming comfortable or they're not? Because ultimately, what is an interview? An interview is an opportunity for them to give you as much information about themselves as they can so you can decide if they're the right fit or not. But if the interview is done in such a way that it just seems like they're trying to pass a test, it's not going to go well on Zoom or any virtual meeting for that standpoint.
Well, I know some people get real nervous, especially in the U.S. with the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and that you have to be real careful not to discriminate. There's ways to do that without making it so rigid, and we would be happy to help you develop that if you let us know. And the other thing is go in and say, look, I'm not looking for ways to disqualify you. I am looking for ways to qualify. It changes the whole tone of the conversation. Because if most of us, hey, I've been there, I've been on these interviews, and I'm going, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? Or if I shake my head the wrong way, then I'm done. Whereas if I think, okay, they want me to show me me to show them that I'm qualified, that's different. You begin to want to tell your story and talk about what you've accomplished and things rather than defending yourself. It's a different mindset in my mind. Maybe I'm simplistic, I don't know, but it just seems if I'm coming in defending myself, my mind's real different than if I come in telling you about me and why I can work for you and do a good job for you.
Yeah, I think what I love was as well what you said, Kevin, about it's about qualifying and not disqualifying. And to Anton's point as well, I think it's very important that whoever is doing the interview is putting the candidate at ease. And if the person is afraid to be on camera first, then maybe just tell the person, okay, let's do first a phone interview, or let's do Zoom without a camera first, and start engaging the conversation. Try, as you say, use some little icebreaker, have the person start to talk and relax, etc. And the more the person will see that, yeah, it's okay, it's going well, I'm starting to relax, maybe the person will move to video either during the same call or the next phone call. But I think people need to keep that in mind, that not everybody will be okay to be on Zoom, as you said, and we are used to it by now, but some people, that's going to be their first time, and it can be very frightening. So it's very, very important to put them at ease and to tell them things like, I'm here to help you, to try to find out things to qualify you and not to disqualify. I think that's a great point you made, Kevin.
If someone wants to develop empathy, okay, first of all, me being on video now is remarkable, because it took me months to ever do the first video on LinkedIn. It was not something I was able to do readily. Second of all, I because of my military, we use radios a lot, and you can have the most polished person in the entire world, and you stick a radio in their hand and say, you got to tell somebody on the other end something important, and don't mess it up. I watch them grab the radio, key it up, and go, ah. Okay, so if you want to develop empathy, try that out sometime, and you go, oh, wow, it really is a phenomenon. Don't judge people too quickly on their response or reaction, even on a phone interview.
Exactly. No, and as Anton said, people are probably even more nervous in front of a computer than in a face-to-face. People are nervous, but even in front of a computer, as you say, you're missing part of the body language. So I think that is even more frightening for some.
Well, we got to think about ourselves as leaders, right? And where I said the body language is because I'm aware of how to communicate. I'm a very direct, very kind of dominant communicator at times. So, but I get away with it because people see my body language. They feel my energy. They feel that warmth, but they can't really do that on Zoom. So those qualities that overshadowed some of my bad ones fall aside. So I have to really pay attention to the stuff that I do badly, because it becomes maximized due to lacking those, positive ones on Zoom. Kevin, your thing of disqualifying versus qualifying made me think of a point, right? When you're trying to build a company, are you building a company of something you want to be or something you don't want to be, right? And that's what we forget. It's not a sustainable thing to always try to build a company of a bunch of what we don't want. Okay, these are great people. They don't have the qualities that we don't want, but do they have the qualities that you want? Do they have the thing to build the thing that you're trying to do? And unfortunately, many people hire based on what people are not versus what people are. And you will never be sustainable that way.
Great point, Anton, great point. So moving on, because I see we are getting close to the end of our panel. We have a few more minutes. So another one or two questions. So now we've went from the how to position ourselves, how to recruit people, how to interview. Now let's imagine we have the right candidate. We found the right candidate. How do we make an effective offer in a sustainable way?
I got one, and this one's going to be different than maybe what people would expect. Step number one, take money off the table. So what I mean by that is, this is coming from research, but irrelevant of what motivation theory you're looking at, money has to be taken off the table. What I mean by that, money shouldn't be the primary incentive, but money needs to be high enough that it's up compared to average, right? It's more higher than what the average is. And it's high enough to where they don't have problems with their life. Because if they're not making enough money at your job to cover the necessities that they have at home, they're never going to be as good at your job as they could be because of their home life problems. So make sure that the compensation is high enough to offset basic necessities and all those kind of things in life. Then focus on the next motivating factors, which are going to be autonomy, purpose, mastery. We talked about in a previous Human SOS show, the characteristics of job design, which ones are important, like task identity and things like that. But the highest level from that is, once money's taken care of, tie their compensation into something else, like company performance, right? Instead of just saying your individual performance bonus, tie their performance bonus into company performance that ties into the purpose of what company's accomplishing. Because it's not an if then reward, it becomes a little bit different at that point. And the second thing is make sure that the job has the things that they want, right? So if sit down and have an open conversation. Once you've established that, yes, we want to hire you, have that discussion of what do you want your compensation package to look like? Ask them, what are some of their biggest priorities? Because what you think is most important may not be what they think is most important. And the thing that's most important to them may be even cheaper than the thing that you were going to give to them, but it's more valuable, right? So open that channel of communication, but make sure money is off the table.
Yeah, it's a great point, Anton. And back to what we were saying at the beginning of our show today, is about knowing our people, knowing the candidate. And let's take again the example of the younger generation. If that's flexibility that is really important to them, as you said, money is one side, but telling them, well, you can work from home 3 times per week, or maybe you can leave early so that you go and pick up your kids if you have some younger parents there. These type of things are probably be attracting them and have them say yes to your offer more easily than, as you say, adding, I don't know, thousands of dollars or euros on top of what you were at plan to give them. So by really showing that you care about them, that you're really trying to have them, but it's a win-win situation, and for you as a company, but for them as well, then that is where you find the right thing. And again, it may not be the same for everybody, because I say for one person, it may be flexibility. For another person, it's maybe having more holidays or whatever, but really finding what is the thing that attracts that person, what that I can have them say yes to my offer. Letting them know the benefits also works. Yes.
Customization.
Exactly.
I mean, what you're going to see, and it's, I think, the first more time we've said this word today, but we need to custom tailor everything as much as we can, because the world requires that. People require to be custom tailored their benefit package. Can you offer a plethora of benefits with wide variety of options that they can select? Or is it very rigid to where here's one healthcare plan, one thing, one way, and that's what you get? And even if it's great, without that flexibility, you're going to lose out a lot. So customizing an example, okay, we offer a healthcare, not a healthcare, but corporate wellness plan, right? But some of them are going, look, I work out of the gym already all the time. I don't need you to pay me $30 extra. But if you're offering me mental health, support for that same $30, I'm able to get on an app and get some additional support in an area that I'm not as strong. Okay, that may be more for me. Or maybe you offering some counseling sessions to help people with, conflict resolution, so I can be better with my wife at home. That sounds to be more better than a gym membership. And that's just corporate wellness, but that can exist in many different areas to where we customize it to their need. And that's such a good point, B.
Well, a lot of the offerings and those things, unfortunately, are driven by fear of discrimination. Okay, and afraid that if I hire 2 engineers and one gets paid this and another gets paid that or whatever, somehow I'm going to be accused of discrimination. I would suggest that the key to avoiding appearance of discrimination or being discriminating is not the result, but the process to get there. You make it very clear how the process you go through to let people have input into what their pay and benefits look like. And if you do that the same with everyone, and you document the choice as well, you're not discriminating. You're giving everyone a chance to choose what they want. For example, work from home is becoming the big question. There are some people would rather make less money pay if they can work from home.
Yeah.
And that should be part of that conversation.
But we can't assume that everybody wants to work from home, even though there is a majority shifting that way, because there's still going to be those that are going, you know what, I like the perks of the office.
Oh yeah.
I've been working really hard to get to this point where I have my corner office, and now you're telling me I'm working from home. No, thanks. Or I got kids at home that are interrupting me all the time. I can't focus. I need a location to go to.
Yeah, and there is another type of employees we haven't mentioned yet, and I'm going to take my example, is all the expatriates, people who have to move to get their new job. And if I look at myself, and one of the reasons why I'm here in Luxembourg, for those of you who don't know me, I was hired by Amazon to come to work in Luxembourg, and I was living in the Netherlands. And when I first did the interview, I first told the recruiter that I actually didn't want to come to Luxembourg. And the more I was doing the interviews, the more I was thinking, yeah, it's a job that I want to do. And it looks like the company is the type of company I want to work for. And in the end, when he told me I've got the job and here is the offer, first of all, money-wise, I was earning more than my previous job. But also what made me say yes is that they were really helping me move from the Netherlands to Luxembourg in the smoothest way possible. And on top of that, I had an additional challenge at the same time is pretty much more or less within a week, my dad passed away just after I knew I had the job of here in Luxembourg. And I told Amazon, I said, well, listen, I need to move stuff from my dad's house. So my dad is in France, I'm living in the Netherlands, and you want me to come to work to Luxembourg. Is there a way, instead of moving my stuff from the Netherlands to Luxembourg, that I can move some of my stuff from France to Luxembourg? And they say, yeah, sure. And to me, that was like, wow, they're really listening to my needs at the moment. They know that I'm having a challenging time, and they're really doing everything they can to get me over there so that, again, the transition is as smooth as possible. So I think by also taking care of these little things that is not about flexibility, about money, but also this additional stuff that, again, they customize just for me in my case, that really makes people say, yes, I want to work for that company, or I want to get to work for you. So
And a lot of times companies don't do that because of cost, right? They're looking at it as a cost. They're not looking at it as an investment. We're going to talk a lot about that with onboarding and development in the future days, but that's why they're not seeing, I give you 10,000 now, but now for the next three to 5 years or whatever long you're going to be here, you're going to give me extra 10% of you. What does that quantify? It's going to trump that 10,000 by the first month, right? Like, because you see the level of care that we have for you, you're going to give us that extra 10% effort when, or initiative or whatever else may show up. You can't quantify it. Like, you can't. You just have to, as a leader, believe I'm doing the right thing. I'm taking care of my people, and my people will do the right thing back.
And they stay longer.
Yep.
Okay. One of the huge costs right now for companies is recruiting. Anywhere from $1,500 to $15,000 per person to recruit. There's your potential $10,000 investment come back to you if you keep the person an extra year or two, because they feel like they're loyal to the company at that point, because the company was loyal to them.
Yeah, great point. Great point. Well, I think that will close our panel for today. We've been talking for more than an hour. Does anyone in our audience have another question or comments they would like to make before we go on a break? Kimberly, Jeremy, or Shatat, anything else you want to add?
I noticed Jeremy commented that making sure that we clearly communicate what benefits and what the options are. Great point.
And to that point too, I would just add, what are some of those other hidden benefits that are not on your benefits booklet that are, oh, guess what? Every Friday we have a fun Friday gathering, right? We get together as a team, we go out and we have some time on, once a month we volunteer as a group. At 1 p.m. I bring lunch when we do this. Like, those little things, they actually matter. They're important. And you do a lot of stuff oftentimes in your organization that we don't discuss up front in an interview, that those cultural things, but they become important and relevant.
That's true. That's true. Great. So, as I had set my alarm to stop, so we are right on time. So what I suggest